First, a quick disclaimer. This review got a little bit fragmented due to some variables such as weather and time during our week with the LX570. I'd originally intended for the whole thing to take place while we were on vacation, but that didn't quite happen. So stick around towards the end where I kind of run through a more traditional quick summary of the LX570, sort of pros and cons, features, amenities, and all that stuff. So this one's starting out a little bit different because we were about to head to the beach, and I had a string of press cars lined up, and I was kind of like, you know, it would be really great if we had something that could take the whole family to the beach, and there were only a few options. Fortunately, one of them was this Lexus LX570. Now, the cool thing about the LX570, right off the bat, is that it's a reskinned Toyota Land Cruiser, and the dearly departed Land Cruiser has left this sort of void in the world of the insanely amazing, off-roading, capable luxury transportation that now the LX570 has sort of picked up the gauntlet and is running with it. And that's a fine thing. I am totally okay with that because these things need to exist. However, it's not nearly as big as our Suburban. And so I'm already kind of a little nervous, even though we're only going for a few days, about 5 days. I'm a little nervous about how this is gonna play out in terms of interior space. So we'll see. But this is more of a actually living with the car type of review as we spend a week with the Lexus LX570 at the beach. And in case you're wondering, it's on Highway 30A between Panama City and Destin, which is one of our favorite places in the world to go, aside from Disney, which you've heard me talk about ad nauseum. So stay tuned and let's see how our week at the beach with this beautiful white LX570 goes. Right off the bat, you can see one of the somewhat sort of limiting factors of the 570 is it's filling up quick. It's filling up worrisomely. Worrisome, whatever. It's filling up quick and it's a worry. There you go. So it appears that I might have succeeded in filling the back of the car. We have a little bit of room to spare, but I never know when my teenager might come out of the house and say, just one more thing, like she's freaking Steve Jobs or something. But so far, so good. So it looks like the LX570 is big enough for a few days at the beach. Are you gonna speak or just pose?
Hey guys, what's up? Cool car. That's it. That's all I got.
So we made it to Florida. It is the next day, and the LX570 is a pretty good road trip companion. Couple things that I would notice on the drive down. The suspension is extremely comfortable and compliant, but you're never not aware of this vehicle's off-road capability. It definitely has kind of a wallowy feel. Not unpleasant, but you know, the steering, the braking, and everything is not quite as dialed in for road trip use as something like a Chevy Suburban or Ford Expedition. Now, obviously, those vehicles lack this vehicle's insane off-road capabilities. So, you know, there's sort of compromises that come with the capability of the LX570, but it's certainly a good long-distance cruiser. I would say the big thing that stands out over long distances is the steering, because it constantly has to be corrected. You're kind of slightly making adjustments as you go along, and it doesn't really have a lane keep assist function that will sort of keep you centered in the lane. So you're constantly changing the steering wheel over like kind of long distances, long highway stretches, which can be a little annoying. Thankfully, it has the radar cruise control, so you don't have to worry about that. But it's a pretty good road trip car, if a little on the small side for our giant family. Also, side note, I don't know if you can see it because of the sunlight and stuff, but we went through kind of a marshy area, or the road was next to a marshy area, and this thing is disgustingly covered in bugs. Some of the worst I've ever seen it. I've been coming to Florida since I was literally born. So yeah, we're gonna have to run this thing through a car wash. There's no glamour shots are gonna be had today. Literally dead bugs in improbable locations. About to head into Seaside for some dinner, taking the Lexus, of course, so we blend in because, you know, Seaside. And I'm gonna do a quick demonstration of rear seat space. Ella had an unfortunate run-in with the sun, as in way too much of it, but she's recovering nicely, sort of. This is my life. What do you think of rear seat space?
It's pretty good.
How tall are you?
5'3" and 3/4.
5'4".
Stop.
I will admit, one of the nice things about the LX570 is, especially for your passengers, you've got this really trick fold-down armrest that has rear seat controls, temperature controls, heated and cooled seats in the second row, which is pretty nice, especially when you are in, let's say, rather warm weather conditions. It's pretty cool that the passengers in the second row get cooled seats as well as the front seats. Well, I was waiting until you were done with your hair.
Are you filming me?
Yes, now.
Don't look pretty.
Will you just give me your thoughts?
I like it. I like it a lot. It feels very luxurious. I like the leather. The seat's very comfortable. It was nice to spend hours in the seat. That was fun. Heads-up display, all this stuff is very nice. I haven't actually driven it, so I can't give you anything about that, but the kids have a lot of room. I have a lot of room. The seats are good. They have the sun. I mean, I really like it. Yeah. I like it. Top notch. Oh, I like the cool box.
Oh, that's right. It does have the cool box.
It has a cool box, so you can keep drinks in the cool box. So we stopped to get drinks just to keep them in the cool box.
That's true. We did do that.
Yeah, so that's pretty cool.
More or less than the Tahoe.
It's just different, and I haven't driven it, so I can't give that 100% estimate. That didn't make any sense. I can't tell you with 100% certainty which one I like better. They're very different to me. This one definitely feels more luxurious than
interior materials in here.
Yes.
Way nice.
It's very soft. All the things are soft. The seat's much more cushy. Like when I rode in the King Ranch Expedition. This reminds me of that. Nice and soft.
Cannot stop talking about that.
I just love those seats. But these are comparable. I really like them. So yeah, this definitely looks nicer. But I haven't driven it, so.
It looks like 100 grand.
For sure.
I'm not gonna pretend like it's not a horribly shallow thing to say, but you know, when you're in a place like this and every single person you see drives Navigators and Escalades and Mercedes and Suburbans and Tahoes, and when you are in one of the only 2 LX570s that I've seen down here, you know, it feels a little more exclusive, feels a little bit more special than it does otherwise. Also, I like how my family immediately walked away from me when I started vlogging, because this is what they think of what I do. Mrs. Jax came back to me because she felt bad that the entire family walked away, but the children are over there because they're hiding because they don't want to be seen in public with me doing this. Because it is spring break, so this place is surrounded by teenagers. They're everywhere. They're like cockroaches, drunken cockroaches. Wondering where I get the majority of the shirts that I wear in these videos, such as this one right here. It's right behind me. Sundog Books, Central Square Records, Seaside stores left and right, and the Hub, which is right down the street. So this is where I get a lot of the things that I wear in videos, just because I like to support, small businesses and whatnot in the areas that I love to come to. Although spring break is, definitely not my scene anymore now that I'm old and decaying. Well, in typical best laid plans fashion, I was going to take the LX570 down the beach to one of the really kind of swanky areas of 30A, and instead it decided to horrifically storm last night and this morning, and unfortunately we've got to head out. So it looks like this review is going to wrap up back in Atlanta where we started. So I'll see you back there. Hopefully it's more pleasant weather. Okay, so things didn't quite go as planned. I had originally wanted to get more of the photo video work done while we were at the beach, but due to sort of 2 days of less than stellar weather, especially the last day, which required me to pack the car in an underground parking garage because there was tornadoes spotted off the Panama City Beach coast, I had to kind of finish things up when we returned. Let's start with the things that matter to you if you're taking a trip in this vehicle, because you don't buy something like the Lexus LX570 and then not use it as a family vehicle. Well, the LX570 was able to haul us to the beach, but that comes with a very large and very italicized but here in my script. And that's because we only had to pack our clothes as well as some food items. Since we stayed with family and they had things like beach chairs, umbrellas, toys, and we didn't really need bicycles because we weren't riding in and out of Seaside, none of those things had to travel with us. Sure, the LX570's 54 cubic feet of space behind the second row was enough, but only just, as you've already seen. The new Tahoe and GMC Yukon can swallow nearly 73 cubic feet of beach stuff behind their second rows, dwarfing the capacity of the Lexus LX570. I know, but they can't do what the LX570 can do off-road, nor are they as nice inside. Well, let's talk about that really quickly. I mean, that is true, of course. The LX570 is slathered in sumptuous top-tier Lexus leather, and it really feels like an SUV that cost $100,000. The seats in particular are nice and soft and comfortable and somehow still supportive, and I can attest to that because I've spent a total of probably 15 hours in them. But because this is based on our dearly departed Toyota Land Cruiser, and so the basic bones of it are getting on in age, it comes with Lexus's old style of sort of weird floating mouse-like infotainment control. And this is the worst part, it lacks Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Yeah, that one stings. Not cool for 100 grand. Not cool. Unless you're talking about the candy bar 100 grand. Are you aware that there is a candy bar called 100 grand? It's actually kind of good. Try it. The 12.3-inch infotainment display is fine. The graphics don't look quite as crisp on the latest from Toyota and Lexus, but it's okay. And the 19-speaker Mark Levinson audio system, an upgrade that this car has, sounds pretty fantastic, as the Mark Levinson systems typically do. And the girls certainly didn't mind the 11.7-inch dual rear displays where they could connect their phones and iPads and all manner of entertainment sources. So those are pretty great for rear seat passengers. But the LX570 feels a few generations behind, mainly because it is a few generations behind in terms of technology. And that's a little disappointing at this price point. So should you buy a Lexus LX570, especially compared to its main rivals, the Cadillac Escalade or the Lincoln Navigator? It's worth noting that I'm not including the ridiculous looking BMW X7 or the rather stately looking Mercedes GL, which one is it now? GLS? Whatever. Who cares? I'm not including them because their space behind the second row is about 10 cubic feet less than what the Lexus LX570 has. So I don't really consider them long-distance road tripping companions, nor do I consider them even remote competitors when it comes to going off-road. Neither are the Cadillac and the Lincoln Navigator, to be fair. In fact, no other vehicle, save for maybe a Range Rover, is comparable to the LX570 off-road. But unlike the Range Rover, the LX570 will come back. If you're being honest with yourself about how often you would use those considerable off-road capabilities that the Lexus LX570 has, then no, I probably wouldn't buy one of these because I would never use those off-road capabilities. I mean, not even like a little bit. This car can do insane things off-road, and I'm not even gonna pretend that I'm gonna use 1/10 of that capability. Both the Lincoln and the Caddy offer far more space, far more tech, and if we're being honest, far more style for the price, although that's not a dig on the way the LX570 looks. I think it looks absolutely fine. And they can both be outfitted with four-wheel drive systems that are good enough for everyone, except maybe Johnny Lieberman. Trust me, and I hate to say that because the LX570 does have, as I mentioned earlier, that kind of like whiff of exclusivity to it. I mean, when we were down there at the beach in Seaside, which is like luxury SUV central, I only saw 3, while I saw dozens and dozens of every other kind of luxury SUV. You have to go up to like the stratospheric SUV prices before you see anything that's as rare as an LX570. I even saw a Bentayga when I was down there, and that was the only SUV that I saw with my own eyes that was rarer than the LX570, unless there was a Cullinan driving around or something. So I mean, in that regards, the LX570 is special. It's literally the only SUV on the planet, the only vehicle on the planet that can do what it can do without breaking a sweat, or braking at all. Although the braking in this car, the actual braking, is probably like my least favorite aspect of the driving experience. It's just a little overly grabby, especially at low speeds, but I was being sort of, you know, stupid is probably the word you were thinking. And that's not to say the LX570 isn't without its charms. I mean, considering what this suspension is capable of doing, the ride is divine. It is so comfortable thanks to the standard air springs. The LX570 just wafts along. It truly feels very like premium and luxurious. That's a really surprising characteristic of a car that can do what this thing can do off-road. The 5.7-liter V8 and 8-speed automatic transmission are both smoother than Uncle Jesse, and the 383 horsepower and 407 pound-feet of torque are more than enough for most situations. Although in passing situations, which we did run into once or twice, it runs out of power kind of at the top end. It feels a little breathless, but in day-to-day driving, it's plenty. Oh, and because this is a giant Lexus, the build quality is literal perfection. But 100 grand is a lot to pay for that and the ability to scale a mountain, which might not be completely relevant in the school carpool line. And I found that celebrating anytime it got over 16 miles per gallon on the highway to be a little gratuitous, especially in 2021. It's mileage is trash. It's just absolute trash. Romantic off-roading notions aside, and the desire to be more exclusive in the land of SUVs at the beach, because honestly, who are you really trying to impress? If it were my 100 grand that I was spending on an SUV, I would almost certainly take one of the 2 American offerings. Probably the Escalade, because I'm partial to GM, because I'm a bit of a fanboy, but I haven't tested either of them yet. I'll reserve final judgment for Mrs. Jax, because it would inevitably be her car anyway. But that's what I would probably do, because then at least I could bring along some beach chairs and maybe a bigger cooler. Guys, thanks so much for watching as always. It truly was an amazing experience getting to take this thing on sort of an extended test drive, and I found it incredibly useful in terms of evaluating this car in kind of real world usage. Like, we road trip to the beach all the time. It's one of our favorite things to do. Go to the beach and go to Disney. I say it all the time in sort of these big family car videos. And being able to sort of take this thing, put it through its paces in sort of a real world application, I think was very helpful for evaluating the LX570. For us, it's just a bit too small. I know that's the most American thing to say, and if you're watching this elsewhere in the world, please comment down below how utterly ridiculous you think that we are because we need such gigantic vehicles. I completely understand. But the fact of the matter is, I do prefer it. So thanks so much for watching. I'll catch you in the next review. Until next time, ride safe and drive safe. I'll see you soon. Peace.